My check. What is good? What is good, my people? How is everyone doing? Happy New Year. Happy first day of January 2025. If you guys don't know who it is your boy Noble Living, and we're trying to do something a little bit different this year. Obviously, we've been growing DYF Bets, the YouTube channel, for a little while now. If you guys have been tapped in there every single day, well, I would say about 300 days out of the year, we're dropping new videos about what we're taking every single day, the picks that we like. But recently, I've been hearing some more people talk to me and say, Noble, we want you on the streaming space. We want you to start streaming more, breaking down the full slate of games, giving your own opinions on what you like and what you don't like. So as a result, you know what? I said, why don't we get into the streaming game a little bit? So we're on Twitch, also on DYF Bets on the YouTube channel. I do appreciate everybody for tapping in. What's up, Anthony? Good to see you, boss man. Good to see you. Good to see you. What's good, Furman? How you doing, boss man? Good to see you guys. Happy New Year's to each and every one of you. We have got a loaded slate today. Beautiful, beautiful slate. College football playoffs is on deck. Hopefully you guys watched the Penn State game yesterday. I had Penn State covering. They did, able to get it done. A little bit of a sweat, a little bit of a biter. But Boise State, I think they showed some people yesterday. I know a lot of people were talking about Boise State doesn't deserve to be here, right? And I get it. I don't think they deserved like the 3 seed, but I do think they showed some teams like, hey, not a Power 5 school, a Mountain West school can actually compete. Now, granted, it is Penn State. We do know about James Franklin in big games against top 10 opponents. But overall, they did not look bad. It still made an entertaining game for New Year's Eve, and I'm super excited for today's card. So what we're going to do today, all right, the free 3 is still going to happen the way that we do it on YouTube, but it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to be sharing our screen a little bit this year, kind of trying to do a few different things. So this way now we can kind of dive into the bets together. We can look at the board, some of the things that I'm looking at, and just like that, the Twitch has stopped. I don't know what's going on with the Twitch. I'm going to figure that out over the next few days. But if you're on the YouTube, tap into the YouTube, all right? And then also on Twitter, we're at DYF Bets on YouTube. So let's dive into the board today, guys. Don't want to go too long, about 20, 30 minutes. Let's go till about 10 o'clock today. We're going to be going from the Action Network. I like using their odd screen to kind of just give me a breakdown of everything that what we're looking at today. So we're going to use that. I'm probably going to start tracking my plays through the Action Network as well, the ones that we take here on the channel. We're going to officially have records and all that good jazz like we do on the regular YouTube show. So bear with us. First day of the year, first time trying out this streaming stuff, guys. So bear with us, all right? Going through the card, Texas, Arizona State. Let's look at this game first, guys. All right, we've got a 13.5 point spread, 13 points depending on what your book has it at. We've got a total at 51.5, and then we obviously see the money line here at minus 523. So what are my thoughts on this game? Now, let's look at some of the numbers first. That's why I like using Action Network, because it gives us a great look essentially as to how these teams have kind of fared thus far this season. So if we look at this, these numbers are not all the way accurate, just because, I mean, obviously they're not 1-0. They reset the numbers from the playoffs. So what I'm going to do real quickly is I'm going to go to team rankings real fast. There are a few different websites that you guys can utilize to be able to give us all this information here. But I'm going to use this one just for ease purposes. And let's just go to scoring offense real quick. Let's just keep it simple. Let's look up Texas. Alrighty. Top 15 in points per game, averaging 34 points per game. But I like to kind of just come here, look at the betting view so we can see about how this team has done this so far this season, okay? All these that are bolded are games that Texas has won, right? And then also when we look at the spread, we can see if they've covered that number as well. So Texas is used to laying pretty big spreads. We saw that last week against Clemson, 13.5 point favorite. They won that game by 14. That game also went over the 49 points, okay? We've seen them cover 22 points against Florida earlier this year. Oklahoma, 17 points. That's not really that big. Michigan, a 6.5 point spread. That was before we knew how bad Michigan was of a team. So we've seen Texas be able to win games. Obviously not against Georgia, which they lost to twice this season right here. And then obviously in the SEC championship game. Meanwhile, Arizona State on the other side, they've been pretty solid this season. We've seen them cover just about every single game that they've won. They've covered. Look at that. Last game against Iowa State, 1.5-point underdog, they covered. Against Arizona, 8-point favorite, they covered. Against Oklahoma State, 5-point cut favorite, they covered. Every game Arizona State has played in, they covered. So the question that you guys may want to ask yourself is Texas or is Arizona State, going to cover this game? I frankly do not believe so. Texas's team is solid. Very, very good coach team there with Sarkisian. A lot of speed that they have on the outside with the wide receivers that they have there in Texas, okay? Obviously, Arizona State, they have Scatterboo. We know what they like to do in terms of running the ball. But let's look up real quickly what Texas's run defense is looking like real quickly. So I'm going to go to run defense, opponent rushing yards per game. We're going to look at Texas here. And they were right there at the top. Top 10 rushing defense, less than 105 yards per game they're giving up on the ground. And then Clemson, we know that was a team that likes to throw the ball a lot, but they do have a pretty strong running back in what's his name there. It's escaping me right now. It's like Mahi or something like that. The running back for Clemson. I just want to look up how many yards they were able to kind of rack up on the ground last week for Clemson. See, not even their leading runner. He was banged up. Maffa, that's his name, Maffa. He was banged up. 2 carries for 9 yards. Clay Klubnik, main guy, 13 carries for 5 yards, 4 carries for 44 yards. I mean, let's look at Texas' schedule real quick. Michigan, that's a team that likes to run the ball. Let's look at what they were able to do. Donovan Edwards, a guy at the point of the season, second game of the regular season, we thought he was going to be a Heisman contender. They held him to 41 points. They held Mullins to 25 points. These are 2 guys who are 1,000-plus rushing guys. Let's look at Oklahoma for a second. Oklahoma, only 14 carries, 38 yards, 20 carries, 27 yards. Look at this. 2.7 yards per carry, 1.5 yards per carry. I get it. Scatterboo, All-American. He's not the same type of player as some of these guys that I'm comparing him to. But what about Trevor Etienne? He's an All-American type of player, right? 19 carries, 87 yards. Don't let those 3 touchdowns fool you. I'm looking at those 4.5 yards per carry. That's what I'm looking at here. The fact that Texas's run defense is that strong with the big boys they have up front, that's going to force Arizona State to throw a lot of passes, which is not what they're really trying to do. If you're trying to make this a shootout and you're putting the ball in Leavitt's hands, to me, that is advantage Texas. Obviously, we got to see Quinn Ewers. We know he can be up and down. But one thing I do like about this Texas team, and we saw that in the SEC Championship, they're not afraid to bring in Archie Manning where needed. So today, I believe on a neutral field in Atlanta, Georgia, Texas versus Arizona State, we're going to go with Texas. I believe that they covered the spread. I'm going to play around with it a little bit. So first thing I'm going to do here, okay, I'm going to go money line. Some people don't like laying this type of chalk on a money line. You guys know me. I like to lay a bit of juice on a money line and parlay it with some stuff. So I'm going to go money line with Texas. I'm going to parlay that with a few college basketball games. But for the case of just sticking to college football right now, we're not going to get into this money line parlay just yet. So table this. So what I'm going to do real quickly is I'm going to bring up my notes here. Let's bring up a few notes so you guys should see that on my screen real quickly. And we're going to go here. We're going to just put Texas money line as a placeholder, okay, for one of the bets that we're going to take a look at. For the second thing, I believe if you are a spread better, you should lay the 13.5. I don't like laying spreads this big, but I believe Texas wins this game by 2 touchdowns. I like the fact that we're getting it underneath 2 touchdowns. If you do want to do a teaser with this towards the over in a same-game teaser, I'm not opposed to that. I like looking at what some of the sharps have as well. Everybody here is on Arizona State. Everybody here is on Arizona State. But one thing that I do like is the fact that Texas has played a game already. So one thing I might want to do is look at the first half spread as well, because they might come out with a little bit of speed. You can look at the team total, the first half team total as well. So let's go to DraftKings real quick. I'm just putting you guys through essentially what I look at when I'm doing some of my research here. We won't do this for every single game. We won't go this in depth here. Some games you can kind of just look at and just go with what your hunch is telling you. But let's see. First halves, 7.5. I wonder if they have the team total. Texas first half team total over 16.5. That's not bad. Obviously, that Penn State one kind of got me scared yesterday because they scored 14 in the first half and they didn't score again. So we're going to go Texas. Let's go Texas 13.5. All right, I'm going to do 1 unit down on that. Minus 108, okay? And then what I'm also going to do here is I do like this Quinn Ewers passing yards. I do think you could take a look at Scadaboo's receiving yards as well, like what some of these people have here, some of these sharps or experts, whatever Action likes to call them. We're going to go Texas minus 13. I do think the over is not a bad play as well, but I kind of want to stay off of it, okay? Want to stay off of it. Speaking about overs, one game that is going to go over, okay, is this Ohio State game. If you want to same game tease this, you can. I'm not a big fan of crossing the number, of crossing the 2.5. Some people don't tease college football. I get that. But this number has gone from 53.5 all the way up to 56. Could we get 55.5 on certain books? Maybe. You can see ESPN Bet right here, FanDuel right here. We've got DraftKings. Everything else is at 56. That's a lot of line movement. Not going to lie. Bad CLV. But what I do like here, Ohio State, first half on the money line. The reason for a unit. So let's go 1 unit down on this. The reason why we're going for a unit here, the reason why we're taking Ohio State on the first half, we saw Penn State and how they jumped out onto a 14-0 lead yesterday on Boise State. Why was that? Because they played the game the week before. I believe playing the game the week before, especially on a neutral field, you just had a home victory. All the favorites won last week at home. Now you're on a neutral field. That momentum carries over here. You have a game underneath your belt. You worked off the rust. Meanwhile, the team's been resting for 2-3 weeks, depending on how long you've been sitting. A team like Oregon, they've been sitting for a while. Ohio State were able to work the rust off. I like them to jump out to a quick lead here. I do think they win this game as well. I do think this is a revenge spot for Ohio State. I know a lot of people are down on Ryan Day with his losses to Michigan. Makes sense. His also his loss to Oregon in the earlier this season makes sense. But that was a game for me. Huge step up in class for for Ohio State. First true road game for Ohio State. Just a very tough environment, and they had a chance to win that game. If you guys watched that game, went down to the wire. But since that game, where Oregon was able to drop over 30 points on their head, really the only team this regular season that's been able to do that, Ohio State made some changes. I was reading an article actually here on Action, and they were talking about here how Ohio State, like look at this clip right here with Caleb Downs. Let's make this full screen.
Under pressure.
That's why I like sharing my screen a little bit. It's a little blurry.
Under
you guys
pressure.
Can see it. Caleb Downs, all the way up here. Do you see where he's at? He's all the way up here, okay? This is a single high safety, ladies and gentlemen, who's playing between the sticks. Great interception for him. But that's the big difference that Ohio State's made since their loss to Oregon. They've moved, you can see right here, Knowles moved Jan Hancock to now play single high safety. So with the nickel scheme, which allows Downs to basically play a hybrid safety middle linebacker role and even at times coming up to stop the run. When you've got a player with that type of confidence that you can be able to move around the field like that, that opens up the entire field for your defense. And now when you have a team like Oregon that likes to play sideline to sideline, we know what Dylan Gabriel likes to do, that gives advantage to Ohio State, especially with the running attack that this Ohio State program has. If they are able to run the ball and run the clock like they were able to do last week against Tennessee, they started off with throwing downs. They started off throwing the ball, got Will Howard into a rhythm, but then they now used the running game to complement it. That was the big problem that they had in the Big Ten championship game the first time around. Not Big Ten championship game, excuse me, because they didn't play in their who did they lose to at 11-2? In their loss to Michigan. That's what happened. They were trying to run the ball first and then throw it second. Will Howard never got into a rhythm. You throw the ball first, you get into a rhythm, and with the run game second, you open up the entire field. So this is what we're going for in this game, okay? We're going Ohio State first half on the money line. Okay, I got that at minus 125. If you guys would like to take the full game, I'm not opposed to it. The over 56, it's high. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tease it. So I'm going to make a total teaser here. So we're going to go over 55 here, and we're going to go under in the Georgia Notre Dame game. I'm going to break that down here in a second. We're going to tease those two. Okay, so basically a 6-point teaser on both of those for a unit. Your book might do it minus 120. Action does that minus 110. We're going to track that teaser real quickly. All right, so let's look at here. All right, real fast. These are some of the bets I was just throwing in here. We're going to change all this for the upcoming new year. But let's look at what we have here. I don't want to confuse anybody, so let's look at what we got real quickly here. All right, so we got the two-way teaser, so you can see I already put it in twice, so I could delete one of these actually. So let's go over 49.5 in Ohio State, Oregon. Okay. Let's go. Hold on. Let me. If it's in bold, that means we've taken it. Okay. Ohio State over. We get this to 49.5, and then we're going to go under in Notre Dame, Georgia, 51.5. All right, so basically a 6-point teaser each way. That should get you to about minus 105 or minus 110 because college football is a little different, okay? We took Ohio State first half. You can see here I took it twice, so let me delete one of these out of here since I already did this before you guys got on stream. Then you can see here, no, I don't want to take this over here. Let me delete this. I don't want to touch the total in that game. We've got Texas minus 13.5 on the spread to get us started. Minus 13. I would buy the hook to get you to minus 12, and then we got Texas on the money line, and you guys could see this college basketball parlay I put in. Youngstown State, Furman, UConn gets you to plus 131, okay? Texas on the money line, and basically parlay that with some college basketball favorites. So let's talk about that real quickly. Real fast before I switch to that. Sorry, guys. We're going to talk about the Notre Dame, Georgia over real fast. The Notre Dame, Georgia under. What's my take on this game? No Carson Beck, okay? We know that. He's done for the playoff. He said he's declaring for the draft. Don't know if that's smart, but it's Carson Beck, okay? His smarts might be as good as his looks, which is not that great, all right? But if we're going to look at this game, we have to take a look at what both of these teams basically pride themselves on. Notre Dame last week played Indiana, one of the top offenses in all of college football this year. I mean, no team scored more points than Indiana. No team put up more 40-point totals than Indiana. No team had a higher margin of victory than Indiana. And Notre Dame's defense, granted, they were at home, was able to hold them to 17 points. 17 points. Now, I was on the over in this game, and we lost. 27-17 was the final score. You can see we went under 50.5. Well, we now have another line at about 46, 47.5. We're teasing it up to that 50 number, right? But meanwhile, Georgia against Texas, two high-flying offenses, went under 51. So, both of these teams went under in their first game. Why am I leaning the under? Because we've got a quarterback for Georgia who's no Carson Beck, so they're bringing in the backup. What's his name here? Let me look him up real quick. Stockton. What does Stockton like to do? Look at his throwing yards, 175. Let's go to his rushing. I guess we don't have the rushing on here just yet. If you look at his rushing yards, I guarantee it's going to be at 50. Because that's what he likes to do. He likes to run the ball. He's physical. He's strong. But that also uses clock. If they're not throwing the ball down the field, and I think Notre Dame, every time they've stepped up in class, let's look at Notre Dame real quick. Every time Notre Dame has played a good team this year, look at some of the final scores. they're not trying to make this a shootout, if we're being all the way honest, okay? 12-1 on the year. We know their one loss came early in the year to Northern Illinois at home. Texas A&M, great program, won that game 23-13. Purdue sucks. Miami of Ohio's whatever. Louisville, that's another high-flying team. Top 15 points scored per game. They won that game 31-24. Georgia Tech, a very run-heavy team, 31-13. Let's look at the Army, a team that runs a triple option. They're able to smack them. Then USC doesn't play a lick of defense, so that doesn't really mean anything. And then we've got Indiana, 27-17. Georgia, neutral floor or field in New Orleans, where a lot of Georgia fans will be. It's a stadium that they're familiar with in the Superdome there at Caesars. You got to lean towards the under here. I mean, I don't know if it's free, like what we're seeing some of these experts say, right? But I do think that it is one that we need to look at very seriously, because I believe that this is going to be a game between the numbers. You run the clock, and then we know what Notre Dame likes to do as well. They like to feed their boy Jeremiah Love. Look at some of his numbers. 108 for 8 carries against Indiana, 99, 130, 137. These are numbers of somebody who's getting touches. So if he gets 13, 14 carries, which I believe Notre Dame's going to want to do because you don't want Georgia's offense on the field for too much, and we get a game in between the numbers like I'm expecting, the under, that, I don't like using the word free, but the under, that's the way to go. All right? So let's go back to our notepad real quick. We've got Texas minus 13, Ohio State first half money line. Teaser of the week, Ohio State over 49.5, and then Notre Dame and Georgia under 51.5. That's a 6-point teaser on both sides. So we're taking the over down, we're taking the under up. Finally, let's go to the Texas money line play for our easy plus 100 winner of the day. Nothing in gambling is easy. You know I don't like saying that, but some of these can be pretty free. So let's go to and then we're not touching NBA today, even though we do have a full NBA slate. We'll come back tomorrow and touch on NBA, all right? So let's go to college football real quick. Let's go to the money line. The odds have already moved on this, but it's all right. And then let's go to college basketball. Let's look at a few money line favorites. This game is at 1 o'clock. One thing I do like to do is I like to pair together my time slots. Some people don't like to do that. If you're cold, I wouldn't recommend it. But this is one thing I like to do. So let's go to Texas, money line. We're going to need about 3 legs to get us plus 100 at minus 520. All right. Furman, really good basketball program, okay? They're minus 550. You may not want to lay that type of juice. But let's go to KenPom to validate everything that we're putting in here, okay? Furman, you can see them. 12-1 in the year. Their only loss came to a very good Kansas team, national championship contender, okay? Then Western Carolina is who they're playing today. Ranked 318th on KenPom, 4-7 on the year. 3 of their 4 wins against non-D1 opponents. That's what that NR means right there. And then Bellarmine, 349. There's only 363 D1 teams, so they're bottom 20 worst teams in all of college basketball. They won that game by 8 points. Furman, even though they're at home, first game in conference in the SoCon. This is Furman's conference to win this year. They should win. Take them on the money line. Okay, so that doesn't get us to where we need to get to because we're only about minus 250. We're getting somewhere, though. So we now add in 2-time national champion UConn. That's minus 800. I get it. You might not want to lay that. So if you want to take that out, be my guest. If you want to go just 3 legs to get to decent value, I like Youngstown State today. Okay? Youngstown State is taking on an Indiana team that's not very good. Indiana University, Indy. Okay? They're 5-10 on the year. Currently on a 5-game losing streak. 3 of their 5 wins are against non-D1 opponents, and the other 2 is against a bottom 3 team in Alabama A&M and HBCU. That's terrible, and they won that game by 5 points. And then Green Bay. That's actually a shocking win because nobody was expecting them to win that game in conference. They win that game in conference, get their hopes up, and then guess what? Let down, let down, let down, let down, let down, let down. That tells you that's a program that does not know how to win. And when you don't know how to win against a team like Youngstown State that's won 7 games in a row, that's 4-0 right now in conference, that took a power D1 team or power 5 scheme in Syracuse to double overtime, that also played Ohio State, so strong non-conference schedule, that gives you what you need. So those 3 legs are the pillars. So to kind of put it in like perspective for you, we're building around the Youngstown State at minus 275. I'm adding Texas in there. I'm adding Furman in there. And then you can literally add UConn, and now you're at plus value. Because UConn's not losing to DePaul. You want to add Drake? Cool. I don't know about Drake just because they're 12-0. They're on the road. They're going to get everybody's best shot in conference, okay? Clemson at home, add them. Plus 148. They're not losing to Stanford. First ACC conference game against Stanford, traveling all the way across the country, New Year's Eve. Tough situational spot. I like Clemson to get it done on the money line. You can lay the spreads. These spreads are 10.5 points, 8.5 points, 9.5 points. You can do that. I just don't care to do it. Stanford, you see that? At minus 2,800 to get plus 10 is not really worth it for an extra leg, right? But these 5 legs, right? Texas money line, Furman, Youngstown State, UConn, Clemson. The only team that you really have to worry about is Youngstown State. Now, anybody can lose at any granted given day, but that's a part of it. So we're going to go 1 unit to risk 148. That's a 5-legger right there. Again, if you want to make it 4 legs, be my guest. You can do that, all right? So this is what we're going with, all right? To wrap us up for the free 3 today, all right? Two-way teaser, 6 points. We've got Georgia in Notre Dame under, Oregon, Ohio State over. Ohio State first half minus 125. Texas minus 13. If you want to put this in a teaser, I'm not opposed to it. And then we're gonna go with the 4-legger. Don't worry about the 5-legger. I just added Clemson in there for some extra juice. Go with the 4-legger. Texas, Youngstown State. This is college basketball, college football, college basketball, Furman, UConn. Look at when these games start. 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 12 o'clock. You can get done with this parlay by 3 o'clock. And then you can roll it over into Ohio State on the money line. Or roll it over into Georgia or Notre Dame on the money line. Because you're going to get either of those at pick'em, all right? I do lean Georgia. I do lean the experience. And I do lean Ohio State full game as well. All right, that's what we're rocking with on this Wednesday. Anthony, appreciate you tapping in today, bro. Love this plus 100 idea, tailing for sure. Appreciate you, man. The plus 100 parlays have done really good. You can do money line parlays. You can do player props, tees down. These are what I call the bankroll builders. All right, these are like the bets. Normally, what I do on the plus 100 to maybe offset some of the stuff that I'm doing like as an individual bet, like that Texas minus 13. I don't like laying that type of juice, or that type of chalk. So if I'm gonna do that, then I'm gonna go minus like one, lay that minus 115 and then do the plus 100 to cover that as well, right? Big money line favorites, they should win, and just don't overthink it, all right, my friends? Let's have a day. We'll be back tomorrow with another live stream, okay? We're going to go with these 4 plays. We're going to start adding different things in here, all right? We're going to have some fun this year. I do appreciate all the love and support that you guys continue to show on the channel. If anybody's going to be in Atlanta today, we're going to go out to the stadium around like 12 o'clock to go talk to some fans. That's going to be out there for the Texas-Arizona State game, so let me know, all right? Have a safe New Year's, guys. Blessings this year. 2025, it's our best year yet. More money, more blessings, more opportunities, more wealth. Let's get it. Let's have a year. And as always, dictate your fate. Get to that cheddar. And I'll see y'all in tomorrow's video. Later, gang.